No, I was just saying, like, I appreciate Brittany bringing it to the forefront as far as the word, because I've had tons of interactions where certain words, like even saying train, seems to, aggravate the demons that are in the emotional world of some women that you're speaking to. But I think that it would serve most women to ask more questions, because if you ask questions, it can expand upon what that man may mean. And a lot of times, the interactions that our women are having tend to be, unfortunately, not developed, not mature. A man is a regulator. Men are regulators. This is what we do. So if there ever is an address, tone or any type of approach to something, it's probably something that he either perceived that you're doing incorrectly. He may inquire. A check cannot always necessarily be a inflection in tone. He may ask, yo, why do you do that? To expand upon the conversation. And what it's supposed to do, ultimately, is supposed to have you see yourself and then hopefully see yourself through his eyes. And I'm talking about a healthy man. I'm not talking about a combative man. I'm not talking about a man who's trying to be destructive. I'm talking about a man who has your best interest at heart. And I digress.
I just think that I know that Amir is from a different culture, but what I will say is this idea that somehow, it's again, it's the woman's fault because our father, which I had a father, didn't tell us or didn't teach us something. Where was the fathers at? Again, this goes back to the men. You guys you contradict yourselves when you say things like this, because in one breath it's our fault, but then our fathers should have taught us. Where was those fathers that should have taught these women how to do these things, right? So again, the responsibility in that regard to me still falls on the man. I don't think that any woman in here, I haven't met one that isn't willing to learn or be taught something from anyone, including a man, right? Especially if it's my man. I want my man to teach me, to show me, to lead me in the right direction. And in relationships, sometimes that's not always pretty, right? Sometimes you might have to have difficult conversations, and that's okay, and that's on both sides. It's just not a one sided issue.
I agree with you. Let me say this real quick. Aisha, I don't necessarily disagree with you. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, a lot of people are not blessed to have a father in their life or a stepfather in their life to really, hone in those value systems and, teach them etiquette, etc. A lot of people, unfortunately, are not blessed to have that. However, at some point, we have to understand that although we might lack something or we didn't have a certain type of experience, that doesn't mean that we cannot go out and seek it for ourselves and put ourselves in the best position. I unfortunately was not taught how to cook. Let me invest in going to some cooking classes, community cooking course, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't get taught all these things about etiquette. Let me invest in myself and take some etiquette courses or talk to some friends like, hey, how did you work and develop on these things? Like, oh, I did this and my parents taught me this. And it's like, if you want it, it's out there and you could have it. I understand it wasn't given to you for free per se as a youth, and that opportunity is missed. But there's a lot of people out here who were granted a lot of different type of opportunities, right? And I think that we can't be blind to the fact that although that might be absent at a certain pivotal moment in our lives, I think that it's still within reach once we reach adulthood, and we can course correct that for the future generations after us. Are you?
I know Ash had a hand up. Go ahead, Ash. Did
So
you want
then
to
that
respond,
means that
Aisha?
the
Yeah, yeah. So I
guys
wanted
Hold on,
to
hold on, hold on,
respond.
hold on, Ash. Hold on. Let Aisha
go ahead,
respond first,
Ash.
and I'll come to you.
No,
Well,
Aisha, you could go ahead.
I just think that that means that the men have to give the women grace, right? If you know this, and that's what they mean when they say you have to learn a woman. And that's why every man can't be with a black woman, right? Because who we are and what we've been through and the things that challenge us, some people just don't understand or they just don't want to tolerate it. And I feel like if you know that you're the type of man that can't deal with or be with a woman that can't be checked, then go ahead and move, keep it moving, and move to the next woman that
So we okay in combative women? That sound crazy as hell.
No, she's saying is what she's saying is that because if you look at our culture and how we were bred, because our culture was bred, there's things that's a part of our culture that we had no say so for. They purposely put things in our culture. That means 9 times out of 10, when we find somebody that's from our area, that's like us, that can relate to us, they may come with this issue. Just like sometimes, in my opinion, when it comes down to the men, they complain about things about us as Black women that sometimes other cultures don't complain about. And I'm not talking about the aggressiveness. I'm talking about the emotion, how we're emotional. They call us needy. A lot of other cultures, I've just been seeing on my timelines, a lot of other cultures kind of talking about American men, like saying, oh, I'm gonna go 50-50 with my wife. And they're like, oh, you're Americanized, you're this. Or another man was just like, why do the American men always say 50-50? What is that? Like they have the impression
wait. You can't go to 50-50.
Yeah, let's
when
keep
she just said that most men can't deal with a Black woman.
With most Black women, because of our culture. Our culture inspires us to be strong. Our culture inspires
What
us
does
to
that
be
have to do with
independent.
a woman being combative, though?
So
Because that's essentially what she's
those
okay.
But Di, when you
So
say
what I'm
that
saying is those
statement, are
traits
you saying
sometimes
all men or specifically Black men? When you're making that statement,
most men, just men in general,
just
because they want a woman
just
who's
most
submissive.
general men.
So most independent women, for instance, have a trait of like me, I sometimes talk over y'all. Some women without a father have a trait of raising their voices to men and not knowing how to speak or respect them. A lot of us don't have fathers. A lot of us like those type of things that come.
Is that due to a lack of a father, or is that because your mother instilled that into you?
Remember, she couldn't instill, even if she wanted to, she couldn't instill in me on how to respect the man. I would have to see that. I would have to have a man be like, hey, this, that. And when he speaks to me, I would know, okay, he means business right now. Y'all even said it yourselves. The reason why most women, so don't go back on what y'all always preach. Most women have these issues when we come into the relationship, especially Black women, because y'all always get on it, is because their lack of a father. And then y'all, when we talk about these issues and we be like, why do y'all have them? Because your daddy ain't teach you. Amira just said it even in her point.
Yeah,
She
no,
said, y'all have these issues with having to check your women because you don't have your
Hold on, y'all. One mic so they can hear us.
You reaching with that one, Dad, because it doesn't matter if you have a mother, a father, one not around, one is around. It's simple respect. Do you talk to you just how they say, do you kiss your mama with that mouth? If you running off at the mouth and you show no respect, you don't respect your elders, you don't respect your grandma, you don't respect the man up the street, you don't respect the old woman crossing the street. That don't have, that's on you.
Moving up the goalpost of check, though. When we was talking about check, it just wasn't about nasty, disrespectful things. It was just you setting your boundaries on how you wanted to be treated as a man. And there's certain things.
I'm not moving the goalposts. I was addressing what Aisha said. Aisha basically said that most people will not be able to deal with a Black woman
because of our ideas and our
words in my mouth, but
what we see as respect. When I came on this podcast, a lot of the things I did came off disrespectful, and because of my lack of a father and a male figure in my household, I didn't understand that. Y'all had to get that through to me. That's what I'm saying, and it's not always like me being. It's not you have to check her for being nasty, but you have to let her know, hey, we ain't doing this in my household, and if you ain't with it, you got to get on.